Hey guys, it's Pablo, the host of The Wine Maverick, and today's episode is brought to you by Identity Wine Company. Identity wines are truly artisan small lot wines sourced from unique vineyards throughout California and handcrafted in Napa Valley by me, Pablo Antonio Suarez. For more info, head over to www.identitywines.com where you can check out my current releases in the online bottle shop. You can check out wine club membership options and learn more about me and my journey in becoming a winemaker in Napa Valley. Identity Wine Company. Every bottle has a story. Now, let's start the show.
The White Maverick is prepared for takeoff. Clear the runway. In 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to The Wine Maverick. I'm your host, Pablo Antonio Suarez, and my guest today in studio we have Miss Troy Evans. Hi, Troy.
Hi. Hi, Pablo. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I made it.
You made it. We've been trying to do this episode for a couple weeks, and it's really fun. So first things first, I basically tell us who you are. I know you're on Instagram. You have a wine handle. So what's your handle on Instagram? How can people find you?
Wine Girl for You. That's WINEGURL, the number 4, the letter U. Wine Girl for You.
Lovely. Awesome. So, I started this podcast because I'm just trying to, bring a voice to the wine industry. I'm trying to interview and talk to as many wine people as possible. So I guess the first natural question would be, what got you into wine? What is Troy's thing?
Yeah, well, so I've been drinking wine for a very long time. I mean, a long time, and I can't believe I'm in the industry, to be truthfully honest. I got here a completely different way than most folks. For me, it's I needed to smile. I needed to smile. Not I wanted to, I needed to. And there's a difference between wants and needs. And I really needed to. My background is technology. It has been for over 20 years. I quit my job to take care of my mom. She was very ill. She was sick. And so after taking care of her for about 3 years, the end was near. And so I had to decide what's next. Mentally, I wasn't ready to go back into the field of technology. I just wasn't there in that space. So there's two things that I love. I love books and I love wine. So I thought, okay, either I'm going to work at a bookstore for a while or I'm going to figure out how to get into the wine industry.
Nice.
So that's how I got into the industry.
Very cool. And when was that? Circa?
That would have been in 2010.
2010.
March of 2010.
So
She died in March of 2010, and I got hired in March of 2010. So I felt like, okay, that's a sign. I am supposed to do this. Again, it was for fun. I needed to smile. I didn't have any plans on, making it a career. My intentions were I'm going to go back to technical recruiting. That's where I left off. I'm going to go back to that. And started working in the industry and discovered that there was technology driving the wine industry.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind and piqued my interest. And I thought, okay, well, I've got to, figure out how to work for some of these technology companies. And so I did. I worked for about 3 different companies that support the e-commerce for the wine industry, which was a lot of fun, a lot of information. I learned so much. I mean, so much about the business, what takes place to get one bottle moved. People, I tell people all the time, if you only understood what takes place to move that bottle, to get it from point A to point B being your home. There's a lot that goes into it.
So much that goes into it.
Yeah.
And, people don't realize that what you're saying, wine should actually probably be more expensive because of all the work and labor that goes into it. It's insane.
Well, the compliance. See, I don't think people even think about compliance. All they know is that I'm going online, I'm going to order this wine, hopefully I'll have it, the end. But if it doesn't meet compliance, that bottle will never move.
Yep, that's very true. And the government does want us to be compliant with every single bottle that moves out of our winery or warehouse. Absolutely. I do know that you brought a wine, so that's kind of like the theme. The guest always brings a wine, so it was your choice. What did you bring for us today?
I brought a bottle of Berryessa Gap.
Nice.
You're familiar with Berryessa
I'm
Gap?
familiar with Berryessa Gap.
Okay.
Very cool.
Are you into any of their wines? Do you have any personal?
I think they do some Pinot or like a red blend I've seen around. I know they're up like in the Winters
Winters
area, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I brought 2018, which for me is, I look at 18 like I look at 14. 14 was an awesome vintage, and 18's very much like that, and I love 18. So this is an 18 Derif, so to speak. So yeah, it is a Derif, but it also has Petite Sirah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that real quick. So Derif is actually the original name for Petite Sirah, right?
Correct.
And I know that you are a pretty good wine historian. Do you want to cover the Derif story and how it became Petite Sirah real quick?
Well, there was a guy by the name of Francois Derif, and he was a botanist growing wine grapes. He was growing a grape called Syrah, another grape called Pelorison. There was a cross-pollination of sorts. He discovered he had a new grape, decided to call it 2 words, Derif. And then it was changed, not by Francois, to 1 word, just Derif. And then it was changed again, not by Francois, to Petite Sirah. And so, I tell folks the first place Petite Sirah was planted here in California was at a place called Mission San Jose, which is in the city of Fremont. So that was the beginning of Petite Sirah in California.
That's the really cool thing about wine and history, right? There are so many, it started like this and then it kind of got, turned into that. And
Right.
that is like really fun when you kind of study this beautiful industry, this beautiful kind of craft. You really see how cultures have a way to, will affect how a wine is made or just named. It's such an interesting thing to go back in history and see like the variations or the changes or anything with wine. It's fascinating.
Yeah, especially the fact that, the grape, the same grape can have 2 different names depending on where it's growing. So that too is fascinating.
Yeah, that is like by region, New World, Old World, all that. It's insane. All right, let's crack this baby open.
Okay.
And
So what's really interesting is that it's a twist top, and I didn't know that. I've had this wine before, but I don't remember what vintage I've had. And
ooh, look at that sound.
I don't
Crack.
remember this being a twist top. I have to admit, when the twist top, when I was first introduced to wines with twist top, I was not a fan.
Same.
But I've grown to appreciate it. It makes it very convenient and easy to drink. Where's your glass?
Right here.
So the
Lovely.
winemaker, female winemaker. I don't know. Were you aware that there's the winemaker for Berryessa Gap?
I was not aware that the winemaker was a female. I have not been to Berryessa Gap. I have not really enjoyed the wines. I do source some fruit from Winters myself, so
Okay.
I know I see them on the way to the vineyard that I go source from, but I've never been. Just like Turkovich, I know is out there as well, but I've had some of their stuff.
Yeah, this particular Petite Sirah, it does include the Pelorison grape.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know of any others that has that particular grape, one of the parents in the blend, but this one does.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
Well, first things first, let's do a cheers.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Really fun aromatics on this. It's like pronounced. It's big. It's right in your face.
Very nice. It is very nice.
Oh,
Yeah, it's there's some other varietals in there as well. So it's a little bit lighter in terms of color and weight
Yep.
as well. It's not that deep, dark, full body that I normally would see with a Syrah, Petite Sirah.
yeah. No, I'm looking at it. There's some definite lighter color there. Not Pinot Noir territory, but it's definitely when I think of Petite Sirah, I think of like inky red,
Yeah.
boisterous, and this has got a little bit less color than that.
Right.
And it's very pleasant on the palate. It's not too tannic.
No.
It's actually very balanced. It's very nice.
approachable, correct?
Very approachable. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you get on the nose there? What's like the first thing that's jumping out at you?
I'm getting some dark fruit. Really, really dark fruit. But I can see where you where you could also think this could be a Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more like flavor profile, not so much the color, because it does have some bumped up characteristics to it. But yeah, it's fun. It's very fruity.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful wine. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. So what are some of your favorite varietals being a winemaker, do you have any favorite varietals that you love to blend?
Yeah, so I mean, my favorite varietal to drink and to not, it's funny, to drink but not to make. My favorite varietal to drink is Cabernet Franc.
Oh.
I love Cab Franc, specifically like, the Chinon, like that nice kind of more green or beige kind of style.
Yeah.
So that's really fun to drink. I collect quite a bit of Cab Francs. And then to make, I never thought I would be into it, but Viognier has been like the most fun thing for me to do. And then as far as blending, I don't know, Bordeaux is great, just because you have so many avenues you can go down. You can basically start with Cabernet and then start adding in your Merlots and some Cab Franc and all that. So Bordeaux blends are usually really fun creation-wise. But I do make a red blend that I'm throwing in Cab Franc, Petite Sirah, Malbec, and I'm just kind of throwing the kitchen sink at it, and it's working pretty well. It's kind of like one of those things where whatever's left over in the barrels at the end of the harvest, I just kind of make something with it. And that's the fun thing about winemaking, really. You're just kind of like a chef in the kitchen, just throwing spices in there, you know?
And that's what I tell folks all the time. It's like a recipe. A chef has a recipe, winemaker, same thing.
Yeah.
But I was waiting for you to mention a new varietal that you have coming out in 2023. It's a 2023 that I saw on your website last night, and I kind of screamed quietly, "What?"
That's a funny joke because Troy does like to scream, and I told her that we have to worry about audio levels. So
I saw that wine. I was like, you didn't even tell me.
Which one?
Your Tannat.
Oh yeah, the Blanc of Tannat. Oh, the
2023.
The red Tannat that I'm planning to do.
It's 2023.
Yeah.
Did I read that correct?
You did, yeah. That's actually coming out of Winters, where Berryessa Gap is coming out of as well.
I cannot wait to taste it.
Yeah, so Tannat is big, and it's very tannic, so it needs a lot of time in barrel. So I'm just letting it do its thing in there.
And what kind of barrels are you aging?
I'm using French oak, more neutral French. So I'm a not going to say a cash-strapped winemaker, but definitely a budget-conscious winemaker. And new French oak barrels are very expensive.
And so what type of aging time?
So right now, I'm trying to probably do like 2 years of barrel aging on it. So it'll probably be 2025-ish. But yeah, that is going to be something
I just can't wait.
Really fun. Yeah, it needs a lot of time in barrel. It needs to calm down because it's just like, we say this in wine education all the time. It's like, you're going to put this in your mouth and then you're going to chew through it. You're going to do that thing, right? It's really funny to do that on the radio, but you're gonna like chew through all that tannin, and that's where the Tannat is right now. It's just big.
Yeah,
big.
I don't. Whenever I see it, I want to taste it. I don't really care who's the producer.
Yeah,
it's such a rare varietal to find. So when I see it, it's like, okay, I gotta taste it. I gotta taste it. And
well, the origins of how we met is Tannat based, is it not? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to tell that story? Because that's a damn good story.
Well, I don't even know how I found you. It was sort of indirectly. I'm on Instagram. I'm looking at wine, looking at different, I don't know if it was a list of winemakers, or sometimes I'll look at someone that I'm following and then I'll look at who's following them, so to speak. I know that was sort of the origin, and somehow I came upon Identity Wine Company, and I went to the website, and then I'm looking at all the wines, and I saw the Petnat, and I saw the Tannat, and I'm like, okay, somehow. Well, first of all, I thought, okay, forget it. I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to taste it. There's no way I'm going to taste it. I'm thinking it's gone. It's all sold out.
Yeah.
You're a small producer. I'll have to wait. I'll just have to wait. And one of these days, maybe I'll find it.
Sure.
And I made a comment. I wrote a comment about I wish I could taste, and that wish basically came true.
Yeah. So that was on Instagram, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then responded back, and I think we agreed to meet in a Safeway, which is a grocery store here in the West Coast, a Safeway parking lot.
Right.
And we did a little backroom deal there on the parking lot. Yeah. I remember that because it was the first time for me, like some random person finds me on the internet and just needs to have my Tannat, right? And then I told Sheena, my girlfriend, I was like, well, this lady really wants it, you know. And I'm gonna put my phone on location services just in case I get kidnapped. But let's figure this out. Let's sell some wine. And then I met you, and you were just like so into it, so jazzed about it, and like it was
jazzed is the exact word.
It was really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
And then we became friends, and we've been kept in touch. And
that is correct.
Yeah, and you're one of my biggest supporters, which I really appreciate and love.
And I love your wines.
Thank you.
You know, when I talk to people about you, I express my love for the wines. Learning about how you got there is just so amazing. I love the fact that you believe, and so do I, every wine has a story.
That's right.
Every person has a story. Every wine has a story. And I enjoy reading about those stories. So it's, you know, fascinating, especially for small producers, especially for someone to just say, you know what, I am going to do this. I'm just going to, you know, take, what is it, leap of faith, yeah. Leap of faith. Get out there, try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, oh well, I tried it.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to approach anything you want to do, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that's leap of faith is definitely that for you know, we're both fellow like southern. I'm southeast. You're from the south. You're from New Orleans originally, right?
Yep.
And coming out here to California, you know, is definitely that leap of faith, and being a small producer in an ocean full of big players is really tough. But yeah, it's one of those things that just helps me kind of keep on going every night, and something that I hope to continue pursuing.
And I hope you continue as well, so I can continue to brag about Pablo Antonio.
So your roots are in New Orleans. Do you want to talk a little bit about?
So I was born in New Orleans, and how did I get to California? Well, my dad became a merchant seaman, and he had to decide which location would be his home port, San Francisco or New York. He chose San Francisco and came out here, and then my mom and my sisters and I, we followed sometime after, and you know, other members eventually came here. And once my grandmother came, then all of the family, the immediate family, was living, you know, in California. So, but home will always be New Orleans. Although I wasn't raised there, I don't have the beautiful accent. I wish I did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When did you come out here? How old were you?
Oh, I was young.
You were young.
Yeah, very young. I probably 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. Of course, I don't have memories of the ride. You know, we drove. My father was already. Well, when we got here, my father was at sea. He wasn't even here.
Yeah.
So my mother, one of her brothers, a cousin, we were driven out here by a guy who his wife and children came on a train, but his wife was, I still can't believe this, she was nice enough to allow her husband, they're very good friends of their family, but still, you know, to allow her husband to drive our family here.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's an amazing feat. That's the things of, like, you know, stories of, I don't want to make you sound too old, of back then, but like, you know, the things that we would do back then that are like considered so taboo now, or like, oh, don't talk to people. Like, you know, I know it's a different climate, but yeah, I feel like just social like interactions were different in those times because you were more trusting of people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So my mother had a brother, her oldest brother was living in Los Angeles, and I just learned this not too many years ago. And the guy who drove us, I guess, and for a lot of people from the South, when they get to California and see all the mountains, it's kind of frightening.
Of course, yeah.
So my mom's brother took over in L.A. and drove us from L.A. to Oakland.
Wow.
To the Bay Area, because he was afraid, the guy from New Orleans was afraid to drive in those hills.
That's why. I mean,
the mountains. Yeah.
I understand that. I don't blame him. Some of these, you know, like these mountain passes, like going out to Tahoe sometimes, or like out in the foothills, it's some sketchy stuff. I drive out to Mendocino a lot, and those winding roads are like, you know, you got to be really ready for them.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you know, it's really sad that neither one of my parents are alive to witness what I'm doing in the wine industry. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't be doing this because, you know, I was just, my world was IT, technology. I tell folks, I used to troubleshoot networks, now I troubleshoot wine, and that's true.
Yeah.
I really do troubleshoot wine.
Yeah, you are one of the most. No, really, you're one of the most astute wine drinkers. We're part of a tasting group where we bring in wines and blind taste them, and
Yes.
you're very good about like do your homework, write it down, and I'm kind of like scatterbrained, so I just kind of like taste it and talk about it. But I've never seen somebody really decipher, the glass, go through everything. You're methodical with it. It's like really, no, it's great to see. It's really cool to see you taste wine. Yeah.
Well, it makes me smile, and again, that's why I got into it in the first place. Was just to smile, and I get to smile when I talk to people some people that are really into it, and some people that they're new to it, and they just want to hear, they want to learn and understand, and I love when I can make newbies feel very comfortable in the whole wine experience. Everybody. I like to make sure that I express that the best wine is the one you like. Truly, it's the one you like. It doesn't have anything, in my opinion, to do with the cost, the winemaker, where the grape's coming from. French wines, a lot of French people love their French wines, and they're not really into wines anywhere else. So I am not as big on French wines. I have tried them. I will continue to taste them. I don't buy many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I love champagne. I mean, that's like
who doesn't, right? Oh my God.
Yes.
What's your favorite champagne producer?
Oh, I don't really have one.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I just like to taste. I can tell you that there was a champagne that really blew my mind. I really didn't want to like it. But I loved it.
Which one is that?
Ace of Spades.
Really?
The Brut. Now, the Demi-Sec, I don't feel the same way. But
interesting.
The Brut, and so then I did some research, and I learned that the current wine producers, it's 15th or 16th generation, which is no wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder. It's really, it's creme de la creme for me, right? But of course I need to taste more. But that one is one that really stands out when I tasted it. It's just the Blanc. I love Blanc de Blanc. So I love most Blanc de Blancs. I had one recently, Blackbird Vineyards.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So good.
So,
Aaron Pott.
Yeah, okay.
I finally met Aaron Pott. Oh my God.
So that's the other thing, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. You're kind of like a winemaker groupie. You have certain winemakers that really excite you, and you just kind of like go after and seek out.
I love to meet them. I'm the same way with chefs. If I go to a restaurant and I really enjoy the meal, I'll ask if the chef is available. I just want that person to know that I appreciate the effort. There's so much that goes into running a restaurant, owning a restaurant, and then also the chef. Head chef, executive chef, whatever you want to call that person.
Yeah.
There was a chef that I followed from the Bay Area to Santa Barbara, and some of his friends I met. A friend at the Indy 500 who really took care of me once I mentioned that chef's name. So now he's in Hawaii, so I got to find my way to Hawaii. Alessandro Cartamini, Italian chef.
Nice.
So good. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I really, again, I appreciate your tenacity and your determination to like seek out these wines. You told me stories that you literally will call the winery and be like, well, when can I get over there? When can I meet him? Or, you have this bottle, I need to have it, so you are that person. You're like a truffle pig with wine.
So here's the thing. I went online. I ordered, I don't know if it was Aperture Cellars or the Devil Proof. Maybe it was both. I can't remember which one. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to receive the wine within 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
It's Hillsburg. I'd never driven to Hillsburg. But then I got I received a response from the order. You won't receive it for a couple of weeks. I kind of lost it.
Yeah.
I got on the phone. I called them. I said, I will come there tomorrow to pick it up on my own. And that's what I did. It's like, oh no, I'm not going to wait that long. I want it when I buy it.
Yeah.
I want it when I buy it. So, yeah.
You're just tenacious.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your Wine Girl for You and your Instagram and like what your, what do you do on Instagram? Like what's your purpose?
So what I like to do in the beginning when I got on, I'd post a wine, I'd write my feedback in terms of wine description and all that jazz. I don't do that anymore. Most of the time, I will post maybe a story about the wine, how I got there, how I got this wine, if I know anything else about the vineyards. But I'm not really giving any descriptive words in terms of how the wine tastes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that anymore. I want to make sure that it stays fun, right? Because when it's no longer fun, I will probably not do it any longer.
Yeah.
So I just find that, there might be someone out there who's interested in the wine, the label. And when I say label, the picture on the label.
Yeah. That's a big
there
thing.
are a lot of
Mhm.
wine labels that I find extremely intriguing, and I want to taste a lot of them because of that, in addition to if it's a particular varietal.
Yeah.
So, and so that's what I do. I just post the pictures. I got into stories. I think it's really cool now that I can add music because I love music.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that I can add music to the reel or the post or the story. So, my thing is, sometimes I will post immediately.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to really think about what I like to say. Okay, so I have a lot of wine,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of empty bottles as well. I mean, I do. I have too many empty bottles because for me, it's like a good book. I don't throw my books away. After I read the book, I still have that book, and I still have fond memories in terms of reading that book, or parts in the book that I really connect to. And I feel the same way with the wine. I have my moments with my wine. And
Yeah. I love that analogy. That's really good.
Even after the wine is gone, I still have those memories of tasting. Where was I? How excited was I? And sometimes I'm disappointed with some of the wines. What I won't do is I don't like to post negative things about the wines.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that goes into winemaking. I feel like if the wine isn't for me, if it doesn't suit my palate, perhaps it will suit someone else's palate. So I don't want to bash a wine. And I don't like it when I see other people bash wine. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
I love that. That's actually a big thing for me too. Like, I don't like people going out and try, even if it's, whatever. Wine is so subjective, you like it or you don't.
Right.
What I like, you might not like. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of times, like, there are certain wine groups that I follow on Facebook or Instagram, and like, they just make it a point to go after certain wineries or certain brands. And it's like, dude, it's not your cup of tea. We get it. But there is there's no reason to go after this grower, this farmer, this person who has built this beautiful, thing, just because you don't like their craft. I just don't understand why, I do want to get into more of that, but I did a rookie mistake in my second episode of podcasting. I forgot to plug my laptop into the power source, and it's about to die. So I'm going to take this opportunity to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back, and we'll get back into this topic because I think we're about to get into something. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Wine Maverick. We are talking to my lovely host, Miss Troy Evans, and we were talking about her Instagram handle, Wine Girl for You, and how she does what she does and her purpose for kind of educating in the wine industry. And we were just touching on, before I had my laptop battery, fiasco, we were talking about how she chooses to not go negative or to say anything bad about wines that she tastes. And I really resonate with that and love that because, we were touching on the fact that somebody put their life into this. This is somebody's craft. And just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it's, wrong or not good.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. So the other thing, too, it took me a while when I first got onto Instagram, I thought, wow, this is really cool. I get to meet people that are into wine and, they're sharing their love of a particular wine. But then I started to notice a lot of people, their real intention was to, what do you call it? Oh, wine influencer.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't look at myself as a wine influencer, and I don't want to be a wine influencer because I don't want anyone to pay me to talk about wine. And I don't want anyone to give me wine free to promote their wine. That's not what I want to do. And I noticed that there's a lot of that going on. So here's the thing, we have these wine critics, and a lot of people, they're big into reading what they have to say. They're big in, wanting to know the scores. How high was the score? If that's your gig and that's what you do, go for it.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that because you're rating that wine at a certain number that it's the best for everyone.
Yes.
So I tell folks, if you're going to follow the wine critics and, they're writing about a wine, you taste it and you like it, okay, well, maybe you have the same palate, right? Maybe you have the same palate, but maybe not. Sometimes they, rate a wine pretty high and you buy it and it's not for you. To me, it's important to pay attention to that because if you continue to buy wines and 9 times out of 10 you don't like those wines, that's not the critic you need to follow. It's not the person you need to follow.
I like that. Yeah, we were just talking about how subjective wine is, and these wine critics. We can talk about the Robert Parkerization of wine, right? One of the first wine critics that really had a specific taste profile that he wanted, that he seeked out. Gave 100 points to wines that really satiated his palate. Yes. And his palate is not for everybody, right?
Correct.
But what did happen is, there was so much acclaim and so much, money that went into these wineries that would win 100 points that they stopped following their craft and making wines how they should. And they started making wines and started hacking it to Robert Parker's palate just to go for those high ratings. And I don't know. I think that's as a winemaker, as an artist, I would hate to cater to somebody else and then kind of sell my soul to do that. So I feel like we are just getting out of that whole kind of thing where wine's almost getting back to a point where we're exploring again and experimenting again. But yeah, that had such a huge vice grip on the industry at one point there. Everybody just wanted the highly rated wines,
Yeah. Well, okay.
Let's go. Let's talk about it, Troy. Let's get into it. Come on.
There was a wine. I have to tell you about this wine. The label. I needed to have, how I needed to have your wine because of the varietal?
Yeah.
So for me, I saw this label on Instagram and I wanted the wine. I didn't care what it tasted like. I just wanted that wine because of the label. Forgot about it. Some time went by. And then again, the same label pops up on my feed. And this time, I'm like, okay, I got to find it. Somehow I've got to taste this wine. So this guy tells me, he says, well, I know where you can get the wine. I'm like, you're kidding, right? He goes, oh, no, I know where you can get a bottle. He shares the location with me. I reach out to them. I was able to buy 2, right? So the wine literally blew my mind. I still remember that moment tasting the wine. I start thinking, this has got to be my imagination. It's really not that good. It can't. Why is it so different? Why am I just losing my mind over this wine?
Right.
So let's fast forward. Years from there. And then there's another. Well, no.
Yeah.
I start telling everybody about this wine.
Okay.
You got to taste it. I will talk to anybody and everybody. You got to taste this wine. I said, you know what? It's probably the best varietal of this wine that I've had in Napa Valley, right? Or the Bay Area. I'll say the Bay Area.
Sure.
North Bay.
The North Coast.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I taste again. Another bottle. And I say, okay, this has got to be the best in California.
The audience is waiting with bated breath. What is this bottle?
And then I took it a step further.
Oh, boy.
I said, okay, I'm just going to put it out there. This is probably the best of this varietal in the world.
Wow.
I said, I know it's a big statement, and it's if someone goes to my Instagram feed, they'll see it. I said, it's probably the best in the world.
Wine girl for you.
Yeah. Fast forward years. I don't even know how many years. Well, now the wine critics, they've tasted this wine, and they scored it 100 points. And I said, what took you guys so long?
I know exactly what wine this is. I know exactly what wine this is. Do you want me to say it or are you?
Well, it's Jesse Katz.
Of course it is.
I mean, his Malbec, his devil-proof Malbec.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. If anyone is in love with wine the way I'm in love with wine, you got to taste that wine. I'm just saying. It is second to none, in my opinion. And the thing is, it's from Sonoma County, Alexander Valley. So he has 2. He has a single vineyard One from Farrow Ranch, another one from Rockpile Ridge. The 2018 Rockpile Ridge is the one. I'm sorry, the 2018 Farrow Ranch is the one that scored the 100 points. My favorite is the Rockpile Ridge. So there is a difference in the style and the taste. I like the Rockpile Ridge immediately upon release the most.
Mm-hmm.
And as the Farrow Ranch ages, it is definitely something to experience. Got to try it.
Love it. So Troy is a huge huge fan of Jesse Katz. He's a great winemaker.
He is incredible,
yeah.
and his story is incredible.
His story is. I want to touch on that story,
incredible.
but yeah, he's a great winemaker at Aperture Cellars. He also does Devil Proof. He consults on a couple other things as well. But the Devil Proof, before we segue over to Jesse, but the Devil Proof, you told me it has a really interesting kind of connection to Cuba, which is really interesting to me because I am a child of Cuban immigrants. So what is that story again behind the Devil
Jesse's
Proof?
father, Andy Katz, very famous photographer, and I think it was 1997 that Jesse and his dad has traveled to over 70 countries, including France, and part of that is one of the reasons why Jesse became a winemaker. But long story short, went to Cuba. He's taking pictures. There's this woman that he sees, and she falls in love with the fact that he wants to photograph her. And he's so intrigued with her that, he's just taking all these pictures of this woman. She smokes a cigar. She's out on her porch just kind of doing things, and he's just taking these pictures. And she shared a saying, and it's a saying that resonated with me because being from New Orleans, there are so many different sayings, from my grandmother to my mother to my aunts, my uncles. They all have these sayings, right? And this woman, who I don't know her name, and I don't think they knew her name. I don't think they ever learned her name. But she said to them, if you live well and drink well, the devil can't get you. You're devil proof. That's where the name of the wine comes from.
I love that so much. What a great story. And what a great thing for Andy Katz to, have captured. Yes. And then for Jesse to have created a wine label from.
Yeah, and they didn't, this wasn't like something they planned. This is, happened
a happenstance.
In the 90s, and then here they are. They decided to open up this winery, and, they decided to name this Malbec after this woman and what she said. And they went back to find her after, they did this, but they couldn't find her. So she doesn't even know how famous her picture is.
That's insane. Yeah. That is such an interesting story. And it's just kind of like, again, how wine kind of meanders into, culture and different kind of parts of life. And it's just cool that kind of, again, just touched into so many people's lives. It touched me because of that story. And then, Jesse goes and makes a wine out of it based on a really cool kind of concept. It's wild.
The reason why I really wanted the wine is because the photo looks like a woman who was a famous comedian when I was growing up. Her name is Moms Mabley. I don't know if you've ever heard of her.
Was she like a very dirty comedian?
Yes.
So, and did she also do like music? Did she?
Not music, just a comedian.
Yeah. And but she was like a little kind of raunchy for her time, right?
Yeah. She didn't smoke a pipe. I think she smoked cigarettes during her,
Okay.
when she's on stage. But I thought for sure, I said, who put Moms Mabley on a wine label? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then I learned, no, this isn't Moms Mabley. This is someone else. So
that's fascinating. That's so cool. I love that. That kind of stuff. There's just so much. I know I keep on going back to it, but there's so much to wine that's just more than pouring it into a glass. And that is what captivates me all the time.
Yes. So, that's one of many labels that I decided to purchase the wine and fell in love with the wine and had a chance to meet the winemaker. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Machete. Have you ever heard of
Machete. Yeah. So do you want to just go down like your top 5? Because you are a winemaker groupie. I know you have like a list of like maybe 10 winemakers that you follow. So go ahead.
So Jesse's on the list.
In no particular order,
No particular order.
Go ahead.
Jesse's on the list, of course. Of course, Dave Finney is on the list.
There we go.
The Machete label is just the story behind that label. I still can't comprehend what he did in order to photograph this woman and take these pictures. And 12 bottles, one case. Every bottle has a different photograph. He took over 12,000 photos just to come up with 12.
Dave Finney to me is my inspiration. So I tried when I got into wine, and I was selling wine before I became a winemaker, and I was out in Florida. I was working for a distributor, and I, like you, have always been captivated by wine labels. And when I first saw Dave Finney's wine labels, I was like, what is this? Who is this?
Yeah.
I am so intrigued by this. And then, fast forward to now, living in Napa, making my own wines, Dave Finney has such a huge influence on how I go about designing my labels and making my wines in that kind of playful, almost, to me, I call it like, a movie studio model where like each wine is like my production or like my film poster, right?
Yeah.
And I got that from Dave Finney. So he's such a huge name, and I'm glad you brought him up because he's a big influence.
Well, the whole thing with Dave is during the summers when his family would travel all over, and his mom she made sure that they would always visit a museum.
Yeah.
He and his brother would
That's
always
amazing.
visit a museum. And so going to these museums is what I've learned, in my opinion, is part of why he's able to do what he does with his labels. He just captures the moment and reasons, and he pays attention to so many details. The story behind the labels. When I met him, I asked him, I said, okay, I just need to hear the story behind Machete. I need to understand it,
Yeah.
right? Because when I first saw that label, I was like, okay, what winemaker was so brave to put this woman on the label, the way she's dressed, the way she looks? Some of it is almost X-rated, right?
Yeah, no, he's avant-garde. When I think of avant-garde in wine, I think Dave Finney, and he's done such a great job.
He did a podcast talking about the labels and how it came to be, and waking his wife up in the middle of the night because he was so concerned. He wanted, he did it very respectfully and tastefully in terms of photographing this woman. He hired a female photographer. He went to great lengths to make her feel very, very comfortable.
I love that.
Yeah. So, it's a fascinating situation. And just, all of his labels, the locations, he's in France, and he sees these, bumpers with stickers
Yeah, the
on
European,
it. Yeah.
the European
and that's
code
why he
bumpers.
created
Yeah,
locations.
it's so smart.
Oh my God. I took the location bottles. I still can't believe I did this. I went on set with those bottles and I took a picture of it. I had to have every bottle.
Yeah.
Every last one of locations. I took them to this location by the water, and I just did like my own
Photo shoot. Yeah,
of
cool.
those bottles.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, but fascinating. He now has a new label called OLG. Are you familiar?
You had told me about it, and it's the
Yeah. stuff
he's getting out of
Our Lady.
Mexico, right?
No. Our Lady of Guadalupe. This is the Central Coast.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's the first. It's his. So he does a Pinot, which is, I'm not a Pinot girl, but it's just, you got to taste it to believe it. He does a Pinot and he does a Chard. So good. So it's the first vineyard. It's the first vineyard that he's owned. So it's the first production of wine that he's produced from vineyards that he's owned.
Yeah.
So it's a small production, but excellent. So then there is a guy. You tasted. I brought a wine for you to taste in our tasting group last week that blew your mind. The Zinfandel.
Oh yeah, that was out of control.
Rob Lloyd. So I'm on the lookout for Rob Lloyd, and when I meet him, I'm gonna scream so loud. He knows who I am, but I was at in Folsom, because he also produces wine for Folsom. He does a Chard for the Total Wines label.
So do you want to quick 30-second pitch on Rob Lloyd? What
Everything.
Were his,
Chardonnay.
But how did he start? Where did he begin? How do we?
So
Because people know Rob Lloyd, even though they don't know Rob Lloyd.
Right. So Rob was going to school. I think he was studying finance or something like that. And he would come back to Napa Valley on summer breaks and work at different wineries.
Yeah.
And I guess he fell in love with it and decided, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. Got into the wine industry. Unknowingly to me, the first time I tasted La Crema, which he worked for La Crema, I was at a restaurant in Pleasanton called Stacy's, which that's a whole nother story, but
right.
Tasted, didn't know anything about Rob Lloyd, didn't know he was a winemaker, didn't really become familiar with him until I tasted John Touchard Anthony's wines.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Touchard. I mean,
John
Jams,
Anthony.
Cellars, all of those wines.
Mm-hmm.
Everything before 2009, 2010 may have been the last vintage that he produced for John Anthony Touchard.
Yeah.
He created butter.
He did.
Butter was not supposed to be what it has become. But when I first tasted butter, there I was. I bought it at this little tiny boutique winery in Calistoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on the phone. I was Googling. I was doing everything to find who made this wine. Because I felt like whoever produced this wine had to have a connection with Rumbauer. And I was correct.
And that's the big one. That's the big name that whether
Yes.
you know, because we're in wine, we follow winemakers around and we know who stops where and you know what happens, right? It's like your favorite football player changing teams, right? We know who the ins and outs and who's moving around. But on the consumer side, who hasn't drank Rombauer, right? They're one of the biggest names in Chardonnay, and that was Rob Lloyd. So that's.
Yeah, he's a big one. But there's one that I've not met, I've not met Rob Lloyd, and he is a living legend. I've tasted his Chard, his Zen. I've not tasted the Pinot yet, which I don't know how I can get it. I'm on a waiting list to get the Chard, his current 2023 release, Rick Foreman.
Rick Foreman, yep.
Yeah, so Rick Foreman is, I love his story. Now, he and I, we both grew up in Oakland, right? He went to high school in Oakland. I attended high school in Oakland. I think he went to Oakland Tech or Oakland High, one of the two. I went to Odell. The first person to tell Rick Foreman that you could produce wine from fruit was a black woman.
Wow.
A black woman. The first wine that I ever tasted was given to me by a black woman. My mother. I used to watch her drink. She loved drinking Lancers. And one day, there she was, and I said, ooh. I had to practice in my mind to ask permission, right? Because I knew she was going to say, no, there's no way you can taste this.
Yeah.
And I asked her if I could taste it, and she said yes. So that probably was the beginning, right? I just tasted the wine, and that was the beginning of me being so intrigued with wine and the whole world of wine. So
that was the moment right there, the aha.
So he was young. I forget how old he was when this woman, I think her name was Dorothy. Dorothy helped his mom. She was someone that helped his mom, you know, with her home. And I don't know if she really helped taking care of Rick. But, you know, we have those things in common. And it would be interesting just to hear him talk about living in the Bay Area. Some things that we probably, places, you know, that maybe we've
overlapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's much older than I am, but still, you know, we grew up in the same city, right? He was born there, raised there. I wasn't born there, but I was certainly raised there. So he's one. I'm trying to think.
So you're at Dave Finney, you're at Rob Lloyd,
but there's another
Jesse Katz.
David. There's another David.
Go for it.
David Brown.
David Brown. I'm not familiar with him, no.
So, Brown, the brown wine.
Oh, like Brown right here in, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I really would like to meet him. And his story's fascinating. It was really the dad who bought the vineyard and became a grower.
So I know his tasting room is here in downtown, but his vineyards are up in northern, east of Calistoga, right?
St. Helena.
Oh, in St. Helena, okay.
It's St. Helena.
Like out by Monticello or?
The winding road.
Yeah, Monticello Road.
228.
The one that goes over the hill and into Sassoon, or?
By Hennessy, Lake Hennessy.
Oh yeah,
Over
okay.
there.
No, that's more like out by CV and A&R.
I forget
okay.
that street, that winding
God.
road that takes you above Lake Hennessy and.
Of course, because I'm on the radio, I'm on the spot, I'm blanking. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I came so close to meeting him. They did right before COVID, there was an event they did over in San Francisco on the water, the ferry building. And I read about it, but I didn't want to take the ferry over there and then take the ferry back alone. And it was a work day. You know, I didn't want to ask anyone to take off from work to go with me. So
sure.
And I didn't want to drive. So I missed the event, but there was a picture posted on Instagram. My cousin was in the picture.
No way.
I couldn't believe my eyes. My cousin had called me like a few days before that event, and she didn't leave me a voicemail. And I had been meaning to call her back. So had I called her back, had she left me a voicemail, I would have been able to meet David, and I could have been in that picture too.
Damn.
It was the mom, the sisters, and David. He was in the photograph.
Wow.
So yeah, I love the Zens. I love everything he does. His Zinfandels are just so elegant. Who knows?
David Brown, Brown Winery. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to meet him, and it's how can I leave out Kevin Fox?
Kevin Fox.
Do you know who Kevin Fox is?
I do not.
Kevin Fox is Dave Finney's assistant.
Okay. What's his label?
Well, he doesn't have a label per se.
Yeah.
He did make a wine that I have yet to open. I wanted to meet him, and I have not met him yet. He's given me a few bottles of wine that I've not opened because I felt like before I can open them, I wanted to meet him, and I don't know if that'll happen because he's
He's an elusive fox.
That's exactly. Yeah, and I came so close to meeting him. He and I were at an event in May of 2018. Dave Finney had this big event when he opened. It was like a what do you call it? An opening, not a grand opening, but on a small level.
Like a soft opening.
Yeah, soft opening for Savage and Cook.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, Kevin was. Of course, I wanted to meet Dave. I wanted to meet Kevin, and I kept asking, is Kevin Fox here? Is Kevin Fox here? And he wasn't at the time. Mm-hmm. But he got there, I think, right before I left. So I didn't get a chance to meet him.
Damn.
But yeah.
He
is.
You'll get your chance.
He is a rock star in terms of winemaking. He does a good job with it. He's made some beautiful, beautiful wines. So, are you familiar with Crane Assembly? The Crane Assembly?
Crane Assembly?
Yeah.
No.
You haven't heard of that label?
No.
Yeah, Kevin produced some of those wines. So that label was owned by Kevin, Dave, and a couple of other guys.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's really cool. You go that step, beyond. So that's why I wanted to have you on and just you are a student of wine. And more than that, you're not you are just you will go and seek these things out. And like you said before a few minutes ago, you will talk to anybody. You will, get in there and do it. And for me, that I'm kind of shy. I know I have my own podcast, but this has been years in the making, and I finally have the guts to do it. But yeah, it's really admirable to just see you go out there and talk to the person. That's something that would make me just give me anxiety.
If you knew my mother, you would see where it comes from.
Yeah.
You would absolutely see where it comes from.
Yeah.
The people in Louisiana, New Orleans especially, the hospitality there is, they welcome everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, what you look like. They want to feed you, come into the home. They don't have much, but what they have, they're willing to share.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. That's very. I think that's it's Southern culture, but it's also Hispanic culture. I grew up very much in that same kind of culture where Cuban community. Just there's a saying. I'm gonna try and translate it from Spanish into English, but it's oh, welcome to our house. Let's throw some water in the broth, and then we'll have enough for you. It's when an unexpected guest comes in, and you just kind of make it work, make it happen. So I think that's very much entrenched in us. Yeah.
Yeah. Southern hospitality.
Southern hospitality, right? Exactly. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to?
Of course, there's so many more. I have a very lengthy list of people, but I think those are the ones that come to mind. Of course, you're on the list.
Aww.
And I'm not just saying that because I did seek you out.
You did.
And that's before I tasted your wine. So that says even more.
No, right? Yeah. It's again, you are one of my biggest supporters, one of my biggest cheerleaders, and you forced me to come out of my shell and go talk to these people. And, Troy is really adamant on me getting into Total Wine.
Yes.
I don't quite make enough wine for that yet, but I will definitely have that conversation.
You still need to have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. One day you'll see Identity Wines everywhere.
And then you'll see me screaming, "There's his wine. It's finally on the shelf. Finally." Yeah.
You touched on it before, but whose story really, when you think of all these winemakers that you follow and all these wines that you've tasted, who is the one that your aha moment, the one that's oh my God, how did I come across this and how is this happening?
Oh God, there's so many and for so many different reasons.
It's kind of a not fair question.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's a woman, Victoria Coleman. I
Yep.
don't know if you know Victoria
I
Coleman.
don't know her personally, but I know of her and I know her labels, and yeah, she's a badass.
She's another one that. So I didn't even know that she existed. First of all, I was in Napa at the general store, and there was a wine on the list, a chart, and the way the write up, it read like Rumbauer. So I was like, okay, I need to taste it, and so I did. Only to find out that Victoria didn't make the wine, but Victoria was one of the winemakers doing the Pinots for Lobo Wines, which sadly Lobo Wines has decided to end their winery.
Oh, their
They
winery.
no longer have the label. They're no longer really selling wine any longer. But I needed to meet Victoria. Once I discovered her, I needed to meet her. And once I was at Rutherford Grill, and I heard that the winemaker for Opus One was there. You know who that is?
I do know who that is. Yeah.
Michael.
Yep.
I refused to leave until I met him. I was like, I got to meet him because I know he knew Victoria. And I waited for him and waited, and there he was. And I went up to him, introduced myself to him, and I said, you know someone that I need to meet? And he goes, really? I go, yeah, I need to meet Victoria. He promised to make it happen, but he didn't. But I didn't give up. I didn't stop there.
In true Troy fashion.
I didn't. So Lobo had in the caves at Soda
That's
Canyon.
Soda Canyon, yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So they had an event there with the wines, and she was there, and that was a moment to meet her and to taste her wines. For me, it was special. Absolutely, just moved to tears special, right?
Wow.
And she's coming out with her own label, and she's going to produce. I can hardly wait. And she sent me a text when she was waiting for her grapes to be delivered at a winery in near Coombsville.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Coombsville. And she asked me if I had time to come and experience this moment with her. And there I did. I went and took pictures and of everything, every moment, getting her wines, getting the fruit into the tank. So that was a standout moment. She is just an incredible person, a bit shy like you, right? And I had to tell her, look, Victoria, you can't be shy in this endeavor. You have to go for it. I mean, men do it. They go for it. They speak of their wines, not to brag on themselves, but they are definitely self-assured in the production and what they're doing. And I told her, I said, you've got to be the same way. And don't think of it. You know, I told her, you can't think of it as you're bragging about yourself, when especially that's not what you are accustomed to doing. But, you know, you have to be able to talk about your wines and, you know, just feel good about it.
Yeah.
Feel good about it.
That's a very good point. And it's hard. I mean, like, you know, there's artists, that is kind of an underlying thing. They're usually really shy and don't even like want to like show their art, right? So it's really hard when you have to talk about it, and like wine is that thing. We have to do the wine dinners, we have to go and like be our number one cheerleaders, and we have to like beat that drum, and it can be hard. And you know, for me, and you know, it sounds like Victoria, sometimes you just kind of, you're in your head, you know, you have to kind of get out and do it, and I've been working towards doing that, and you're a big supporter of that. Sheena, my girlfriend, is like, you know, get out there and do it. But yeah, I think a lot of creators, a lot of winemakers kind of, you know, stumble in that aspect. Yeah. Some are more boisterous than others, of course, but some really just kind of, you know, struggle.
It's true.
Okay, so we'll do one more thing, and we'll get you out of here. I want to ask you a question, something that, you know, my first episode with Sheena, we touched on it. We did a whole episode on it, but what is your take on the state of the wine industry right now? How do you know, I know you're a wine educator at a winery, and you are like ground zero. Where do you think the industry's at right now, and how can we kind of right the ship, or do you think the ship is sinking? Where are you at?
You know, it's a good question.
It is.
I haven't really given much thought to that. I think there's a huge oversupply of wine, and, you know, Instagram, free advertising. Right. So if a winery is not on Instagram, I believe, and being interactive on Instagram.
That's the big one, being interactive.
I think
everybody's on Instagram, but some people are more active than others.
They are doing themselves a huge disservice.
Yeah.
It's free. You know, it's going to cost you your time, right? If you don't want to do it, you know, get a family member to do it. Get a teenager who's paying attention, who maybe someone that's about to enter college who can kind of run your social media campaign and just get it out there, so that people can know about it, especially small producers, right? You've got to have a presence on a social media platform, because you have the older generations that, you know what, they're retiring. They don't really have the budget to just buy wine, whatever wines they want,
Right,
the
that's
way
a
they
big...
did when they were, fully employed. So they're buying less. So
And the younger generation doesn't seem to be as interested
they're
yet.
not that interested. You've got to have something for them. You've got to make it fun. You've got to get their attention. You've got to get their eyes on your label, whatever it takes. So here's the thing. I think after COVID, for some reason, wineries didn't seize the opportunity to do all they could in order to get people back into wine.
Yeah.
Of all ages.
Yeah.
Of all ages. But like I said, the grandparents are retiring. They're not spending the money on the wines. So you got to get the young people.
You got to get the younger people.
Have to.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to, whatever it takes. So if you're going to get an influencer, hopefully it's someone that's not being paid.
Yeah.
And they actually like the wine, because that would be the truth.
There's so much
of their wines, right?
Yeah, to me right now, the whole influencer thing, like Instagram, it's such a, like, it's, part of my language, it's such bullshit. It's just everything. It's so blatantly like, this company is paying me to say these things, and like they're soulless. They don't truly believe in what they're like pushing, and it's just dishonest and blatant and annoying, and like it's clogging up so many good producers and craftsmen and small true people that really need all the shout outs are getting drowned out by big corporate influencers, and it's so frustrating.
So here's the thing, with the wine critics, I used to say, maybe I should create, first I was thinking about a whole different way of scoring the wines or rating the wines, right? To me, the real question is, when you taste the wine, will you buy that wine again?
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to buy that wine again, it doesn't matter what you have to say about it.
True. Yeah. And then price points too, right? I mean, yeah, like you can taste an amazing wine, but do you want to spend the money on that again? Can you afford to spend the money on some of these wines again? The answer is usually no. And that's a really big, unfortunate thing in the market too.
Right. Well, it is. But for some people who if they have the income,
sure, but
and they really like it,
yeah,
they're going to buy it again.
Yeah.
They're going to buy it again. And those are the people that, I don't know how the wineries can engage with those type of folks to get them to speak about their wines.
Troy, this has been an absolute treat. Absolute treat. Thank you so much. Your wine knowledge and your encyclopedia of winemakers and wine history and like where everybody is and people that you follow is really cool. That's why I wanted to get you on the podcast. I definitely have to bring you back because there's just so much more we can talk about. We just barely even scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been really, really great.
Very cool. Very cool. I enjoyed it so much. Thanks
Good.
for having me.
Yeah. So one more time, I do believe in giving out plugs. So what is your Instagram handle one more time?
Wine Girl for You. WINEGURL, the number 4, the letter U.
Awesome. And you can find me at The Wine Maverick. And if you ever want to throw any emails or have any questions or concerns, thewinemaverickshow@gmail.com. This episode is brought to you by Identity Wine Company. Check out these beautiful handcrafted small lot wines made by yours truly, me, at identitywines.com. Always got to throw the shameless plug there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until the next episode, we'll see you guys. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Very cool.